And we're live. Yenn, it is lovely to see you again. I'm going to wait a split second just so that, or split second, maybe a couple of
Couple of minutes.
seconds, couple of minutes maybe for people to join. But I did mention this before. I absolutely love your hair. I love that you're always
Shine.
bringing in the color into our calls.
It's blue in the back and pink in the front.
It's
So
perfect.
it's the colours for the not no for the bisexual bi plus pride. I'm not
Oh,
bi plus, I'm asexual. But when it fades, it looks like pink, blue, and white, which is the trans pride colours, and I am trans. So
awesome.
it's
I love
pride
it.
hair basically. And when I go out in Australia, if you wear a little lanyard with sunflowers on it, it says you're a person with an invisible disability. So when you're
Yeah.
accessing service like at the airport or in like an Uber or something like that, they know what that means. So I wear that one, and it's got a little trans pride thing, like a key ring on the lanyard. And then I also have a Progress Pride flag lanyard, which I wear, which is saying I'm queer and proud.
That's
And
amazing.
that one's got a little gold Lego brick on it.
Cute.
So, yeah,
Legos are awesome too. The sunflower seed, sorry. So the sunflower foundation that you were talking about is an excellent just strategy for everyone to look at when they're in busy places to get one of
yes,
those sunflower
yes.
lanyards. It really helps me as well at the airports. Just I put it even under my clothes just so that I can pull it out when
Yeah,
I need it.
me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really great. They also sponsored one of my conferences, so I really
Oh,
love
nice.
them. They're really
Nice. I
nice,
like
yeah.
that. I like that.
So
Yeah.
today we're speaking about navigating mental health as a neurodivergent human, which is such a topic of close to my heart because I'm obviously a therapist and I
Mhm.
absolutely love this topic. I think we need to talk about it more often.
Yeah.
I'm going to just do an intro, just so that the people that don't know me and you, they do get to know us. So my name is Karla Pretorius. I'm a registered psychotherapist, trained psychologist, clinical lead at Caboose, and I'm busy with my PhD. I'm third year now. So we were talking about the differences in PhD years and what we're called, and I'm called a PhD researcher. Caboose is a neurodivergent, is for neurodivergent people and the organizations and communities around them. Caboose is the platform that bridges the gap between lived experience and everyday reality through community built by people who get it, and the practical guides designed to actually help wherever life might take you. This is also just
Yeah.
a reminder that the Divergent discussion is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so please check that out. We'll also have time at the end for if there are any audience questions, but I have so many questions for Yenn that I don't know if we're going to have time, but we'll try. So please feel free to drop those into the chat box and let's see if we can get through them. I'm going to give your bio, Yenn. Please tell me if anything is incorrect. Yenn is an author of 18 published
Yeah.
books, soon to be 20. That is
I know.
remarkable.
I tick the overachiever box.
Yeah. Also, I was telling this to somebody yesterday. I was like, I'm just gathering degrees so that I can one day get over my imposter syndrome. I think
Yes,
you're doing the same thing.
absolutely. Yeah. It's like, oh, I've only got one book. Other people have two books. Oh, now I've got two books. Other people have two books.
I
I'm
think
sorry.
you can pause for a bit on the books because I think you're also busy with your PhD. So I think you
Yeah,
need
I
to
do
focus on
have
that
a
one.
PhD. We're loving the PhD.
All
It's a
of the
good thing.
books are about elements of autism. Yenn is passionate about making a difference for neurodivergent and queer folks. They have presented, or you have presented, all over the world, including for TEDx Canberra in 2013 and in 2023. Being among only around 100 people in the world to have given more than one TEDx talk. That is amazing. Yenn has a master's degree in fine art. They also have a large public profile, particularly in the autistic and transgender communities. Like I said, Yenn is busy with their PhD, and Yenn lives in a house full of art books in Canberra with their little tortoiseshell kitty, Sunflower,
Oh,
of
that's
course.
sorry. Fur is being a bit mean at the moment because I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah,
So
you
I moved my
moved.
laptop because when I was in the study, so I have one bedroom and a study here, and when I was in the study, for some reason, the light was coming down like I was an angel or something, and it was very off-putting. So I've moved to the dining room, and now I have a cat. She was originally attacking me, but now she's smooching my legs because she's accepted the fact that I'm in a different spot, and now she just wants to tell me how much she loves me.
She's
She's a
going
very
through
lovely
the
little
different
thing.
she's going through the different phases of
It's flavors
acceptance.
of grief.
Yeah, or maybe or that. Yeah, exactly. She's going to be all right with it. Yen, when you talk about mental health, I want to jump straight into the questions because I think we have so many interesting questions here. But when you talk about mental health, what would best capture your experience of navigating mental health as a neurodivergent person and why?
Yeah, so I think if I was going to use one word, and it's a bit, and I will say to people, this is a frank discussion. I'm going to be talking about some difficult things and some triggering things potentially. So if you do have an issue, please feel free to sort of leave for that particular time. It's not anything grisly and gory and in too much graphic detail, but it's some difficult concepts. And I know when I've been really unwell, so I have schizophrenia in addition to everything else. And when I've been really unwell, I find just hearing stories of people who are unwell, even if it's not particularly difficult, I struggle with that. But I think if I was going to use one word for navigating the mental health world as a neurodivergent person, it would be survival. I think all of us have this
Sure.
experience that it's a challenge. Having mental health issues itself is bad enough, but it can be so much more difficult to navigate the system that's supposed to be there to help you, but it can be utterly exhausting and it can actually exacerbate the mental health issues. So, what's meant to help becomes unhelpful. Clinicians and
Sure.
support workers can be really helpful in this space, but often you will need to practice advocacy to ensure your needs are met. And if you don't, it can be definitely a matter coming down to survival. If you're alone, I'm asexual and aromantic, so I don't have a partner, and I will never have a partner. Well, I don't think I will. So this means when I'm accessing services, even when I'm really seriously unwell, I'm by myself, and that's difficult. And a lot of autistic people, neurodivergent people, are by themselves when they're trying to access support, and it's a challenge. I've complained about services online, and then I get told off for it by people saying, "Oh, but nurses are wonderful." I'm like, "Yeah, most of them are. That's not the point. It's not the wonderful ones I'm bothered about. It's the ones that, weaponize your mental health. That's the ones I'm worrying about." So yeah, and people don't get it. And it's a unique experience of accessing mental health services when you are neurodivergent. And when you talk to someone else in a similar situation, there's a really strong amount of empathy and understanding. And that is actually a really nice thing. And that makes the survival less stressful and more empowering, I guess.
Yeah, I really I'm grateful that you said that in the beginning as well because it is a difficult topic. Thank you for kind of like starting that conversation in that way because I feel like a lot of people are going through mental health challenges and when they turn to people that are supposed to help them, they feel even more alone, like you said. They feel like they need to now also navigate
Yeah.
the clinical world or advocate for themselves when they feel like they can't even, get up from bed.
Yeah.
It's a very hard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I wish that there were more places where we could feel safe because if you're talking
Yes.
about survival, the only thing we want to feel is safe. We want to feel like we can be ourselves, our complete authentic selves, and not
Mm.
feel like we need to now back it up with a reason or or
Mm.
explanation. So it's so true.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
What about this anxiety and emotional overwhelm that we tend to feel? How does that function differently for neurodivergent individuals?
Mm. That's a really good question, and I will put a caveat on that. I don't really know because I've never been a neurotypical person.
That's cute.
But from what I've heard from other neurodivergent people, We often have that high level of anxiety that's all the time. It's constant anxiety. We also often have alexithymia. And if you don't know alexithymia, that basically means emotional blindness. It doesn't mean you lack emotions. It means you lack the ability to actually draw on those and pinpoint them and know what they are. Often we catastrophize and ruminate. So catastrophizing I describe as putting two and two together and making 483.4. And then ruminating is when you've got an idea in your brain. Like today, I'm very good at worrying. I'm better than I was, but I always say I like to worry. I don't really want to worry, but I tend towards worrying. And I started thinking, what had happened? It was some totally minor trigger. And then I thought, oh, but what if I can't make any money? What if I don't have any jobs? What if no one wants to employ me? I'll have to sell my house. And then what will happen? Oh my gosh, I'll have to give up my cat and I'll live on the streets or in crisis accommodation. And that was a combination of rumination and catastrophizing, thinking the absolute worst outcome and going round and round and round in circles. And then there's burnout. Now, burnout is definitely different for autistic folks, particularly. And for me, burnout is really about work. I was told once by a senior manager that if you love it, it's not work. And that's exactly how I feel. Everything I do at the moment, and I recognize the huge amount of privilege here, everything I'm doing at the moment, I really enjoy and absolutely love and think is a good thing. So I don't get burnt out from work. I get burnt out from social stuff. So that person I mentioned before we started about somebody who their social contact with me actually caused burnout because they were constantly messaging me and I was really stressed every time I heard the phone go ding. My anxiety would go up, and this went on for ages. And it took me such a long time to get through it. And that was not burnout generally, if a neurotypical person talks about burnout, they mean workload. I'm working too many hours, I've got too much stress at work. This is a contributor for autistic folks, but it's not the only one, and we have other reasons. And I find with burnout, all you can do is stop. All you can do is say, okay, I've got to this point. I wish I hadn't got to this point, but I have. So how can I move beyond this? So that was, that's really important to recognize that. The
Yeah,
other thing
and
that
sorry.
irritates me around anxiety is when people tell us not to worry. Oh, don't worry. It doesn't matter. It won't happen. You've got no reason to stress about this. If we're experiencing something stressful, it is stressful, regardless of what somebody else thinks.
Yeah.
Neurotypical clinicians, particularly, are really bad with this and can contribute to anxiety due to these kinds of invalidations and essentially microaggressions. I had something that caused me burnout and stress and trauma. It was something that happened a few years ago. I was working in a government job. I had these new managers. For reasons best known to themselves, these managers really disliked me. And they ended up, it's the reason I left. I was being utterly bullied and gaslit. And it
Excellent.
was just utterly awful. And I remember one of the first times when I thought, hang on, there's a problem with these folks, was I got anxious so I just got my cat at that point, my little sunflower. And I came home after work and she'd knocked a vase off the bench and it had broken. And I told my managers the next day how I was really stressed to go to work in case the cat broke something else or hurt herself or something. And their response was, why are you stressed about that? That's just stupid. That's not a reason to be stressed. If you're stressed about that, how can you function in the workplace? So that kind of thing. You don't want people
Yeah,
responding that way to your anxiety. You want them
that's horrible.
validating it, saying, I recognize you're really stressed. How can I help?
Exactly, yeah, because stressors are different, and I mean, it's the intensity that's the same. This is the thing. You were mentioning those levels that we wake
Yeah,
up with kind of like that unease already,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it feels when I wake up, I don't have the feeling of like, "Oh, I can stretch and I can just like take it
yeah,
easy."
yeah.
There's always a level of unease. And then
Yes,
that escalates to anxiety, that then
definitely.
escalates to overwhelm if
Yeah,
people invalidate your stressors. So if you're saying, I'm stressed about going to a barbecue, most people would say,
yeah,
why? What is, yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to be fun.
yeah.
You can relax. And for us, that's not relaxing. For us, that's really stressful. Like
I,
scripting.
I
Yeah,
I love the way they say that we lack empathy.
yeah,
Do you know what
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's
This,
anyway.
yeah, exactly. It's like just understand that when we say that these things are
Yeah,
stressful for us,
mm,
that we're already at a level where we're,
yeah,
like I said, scripting out conversations that we have to have or that we can have. We're thinking about
yeah,
topics. There's so much
oh,
effort that goes into us going into a social event that we're
yeah,
completely drained even before
mm,
the actual event.
yeah,
So yeah, I think we need to also look at our allostatic load and where
yeah,
are we? We're usually taking
mm,
on a lot more just by
yeah,
waking up and thinking
yeah,
about the day. So I
yeah,
think it's such an
yeah,
important thing that our anxiety and overwhelm goes into is more in like is more of a focus point for us, but
yes,
also for the people that engage
yeah,
with us.
yeah, absolutely, and it's something people need to know. This is,
Mm.
it's the thing people say, "Oh, we're gonna do intersectionality," or, "Oh, we're gonna do neurodiversity." It's like, "Oh, cringe, it doesn't work that
Yeah, it doesn't.
way."
It doesn't. What about differentiating between everyday stress and a deeper pattern of neurodivergent overwhelm or burnout? What is that
Yeah,
the difference there for neurodivergent individuals
yeah.
specifically?
So one can turn into the other is the thing about this. You've got your everyday common or garden autistic stress, or ADHD stress and going through life. And it's like, oh, I can sort of manage that. It's not very pleasant, but and then it sort of builds and builds and builds. And there is a tipping point where it gets into that really, really harmful state. For me, and I have very significant alexithymia, um, I don't realize that things have got bad until it's very, very bad. And for me, and it's different for every person, but for me, the burnout gets together with the schizophrenia and they have a bit of a party up there. And I'm not invited and they're plotting nasty things against me and making my life difficult. So it's not fun at all. Um, as I get older, my ability to see burnout or mental ill health coming improves, but it's an ongoing challenge. I would say to people, trust your gut. If you're somebody who's in tune with your gut, like your gut feeling, then trust that because it's almost always right. I had somebody that I took on as a client, and when I first took her on, I thought, oh, I've got a bad feeling here. And then I wanted the income, so I ignored the bad feeling. And it was, I should have listened to the bad feeling. And I always know
Mm,
that. So if you do get that, if you're somebody that has that ability to get that gut feeling, always listen to it. I don't know why this is the case, but it does
mm,
always seem to be right. So I think with burnout, if something seems to be, oh, I'm not sure about this, listen to the, oh, I'm not sure about this because it's almost certainly correct. If you find yourself heading down that path, now you can do that. You can actually, even if you have alexithymia, you can think, oh, if I don't do something soon, I'm going to be right in that burnout space. If possible, stop what you're doing, which is the key cause or causes of the anxiety. So for me, when I was in that workplace with the managers that, for reasons best known to themselves, really didn't like me, I got to the point it was absolutely got to burnout, stress, overload, overwhelm, every nasty you could think of. And I thought, okay, it's a job. There are other jobs. I would rather have no job than be in this one because this is killing me. And it was killing me. If I'd stayed there, I probably wouldn't still be here now. So I did the right thing, and I saw in time the danger before it eventuated into anything regrettable. But yeah, it is a skill that improves with age. I'm 51, so I'm apparently super wise and insightful and things like that. I don't feel like I am. I don't think the cat thinks I am. But yes,
I
that's my
think
thought
you are.
on that trajectory to burnout.
Me and Sunflower and everybody else that's learned or heard you speak and seen you present or read your books, we all think you are. So I think and that's amazing advice. Is to just stop the thing that's hurting you is
Yeah.
definitely that needs to be stopped immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And it's
really
not,
like
there
that
are
advice.
very few things you do which you are necessary for doing it. When I got really unwell with psychosis in 2010 to 2013. And in 2010, just as I was getting to the point where I really needed to access help, I had a talk booked in New South Wales. And it was just me. It was a parent organisation, and they'd, put their funds together and said, oh, we're going to pay for Yenn to come and talk to our parents, and, it'll all be good. And it was on a Saturday, and on the Friday, I was in such a state, and I rang them and I said, oh, God, I'm so sorry, I can't do this. And at the time, I felt dreadful. I thought, oh my God, I don't cancel talks. But afterwards, I thought, no, I did the right thing. Absolutely did the right
Yeah.
thing to cancel that. Nobody died.
Mm,
It wasn't the end of the world. Some people probably had to get their money refunded, but actually, I'm not that essential. And if you need to stop, stop.
mm. Yeah, 100%. And listening to that gut feeling, that intuition. I think you were saying that you don't know why sometimes our intuition is so strong. And I think it
Yeah,
is, well, some of the research also tends to lean towards this is
yeah,
that our sometimes our expressive language, we struggle with
yeah,
the back and forth, but we're
yeah,
really good at picking up cues that is
yeah,
incongruent. So if somebody
mhm,
says something and
yeah,
they're doing something else like that, but those
yeah,
patterns that we kind of see, oh, okay, these things are not congruent with, and
yeah,
we're also taking data the whole time, so our other senses are picking up our interoception. How do we
yeah,
feel when
yeah,
we walk into a room? Do we feel uneasy? Is this the type of
yeah,
person that we want to have
yeah,
a friendship with? Those are things that,
mm,
in the past, and my next question is actually about masking, but in the past
yes,
we would just kind of suppress all of those feelings. And
yeah,
well, especially for me, when I was younger, I'd be like, I don't feel good about this person, but everybody
yeah,
else seems to like them,
yes,
so I might
yeah,
just have to go with it. What about masking is obviously such a common part of many
yeah,
neurodivergent
yeah.
experiences. Why do you think its impact on mental health is still so often overlooked? I have a lot to say about this, but I want to
Yeah,
hear from you.
absolutely. No, masking is interesting. I think I won't say everyone does it, but a lot of autistic people particularly do it. There's a lot of factors at play. One of them is that it uses up a bunch of spoons. Spoon theory. I think everyone probably knows spoon theory. So where our spoons get depleted, probably more so than neurotypical folks. Also, a lot of us don't know that we're masking. I know when I
Mm,
don't do it now, but when I used to, I if you'd said to me, "You're masking," I wouldn't believe you. I'm like, "Really?" I didn't notice it wasn't conscious, it become sort of inculcated into my expression. So it's not always easy to consciously decide not to do it. Plus, there often is an expectation of masking from other people in society. I don't do it. I simply don't. I don't know when I stopped doing it. I think it was very closely linked with my feelings about myself and with my self-confidence and my sense of pride in who I was. So when I got to a point where I really liked and valued myself, I didn't feel the need to go around masking and trying to be something I wasn't. And for me, this frees up a lot of extra spoons and helps me to navigate my own life pretty well. One of the
mm,
issues around this, though, and I think one of the reasons that it can be such an issue, is that people masking are believed to be coping because outwardly they are. Then there's the issue of people,
mhm,
and particularly mental health clinicians, holding assumptions around masking and autism. So, oh, you're not autistic, you make eye contact. I have a
mm,
wonderful friend in Melbourne who's autistic. I have a few wonderful friends in Melbourne who are autistic, and this one's called Kathy. And I visited her once, and she said to me, "Yeah, and the reason you don't get burnt out is that you don't mask." And I'd never sort of thought of that. I thought actually that's true. Really
mm.
is true.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, but it is a big problem, and
Mm,
it's complicated because firstly, people assume that you're doing really well, and this is across the
mm,
board. This is school kids, older people, parents, employees, whatever.
mm,
If you're masking and behave in a way that seems, ordinary to people, they're not going to think you need support. I mean, there's that story, isn't there, of the kid that goes to school and masks all day and is an absolute model student and then goes home every night and has a whopping meltdown. And, the parents are like, what are you doing to my child? And the teacher's like, we're not doing anything to your child. Your child's wonderful. They're an exemplary student. And the poor kid's been masking all day long and nobody realizes this, so they can't access any support. And it's the same as the levels, the functioning labels. The people that get the high functioning label, and I really don't like these and I don't think they help anyone, but the people who get the high functioning label get no support, and the people who got the low functioning label don't get the opportunity to have any choice and control or dignity of risk. So
Mhm.
yeah, they're not really helpful. And then if you're masking, you might be somebody with really high support needs, but no one can tell. So you're missing out on getting your support. Plus, it's really stressful. You're spending up all your spoons and energy trying to, come across neurotypical. Doesn't really help anyone.
Yeah, and it's so true what you're saying about we are not even aware that we were masking. And I remember this when I look back now, post diagnosis, I will look back at photos even of me when I was younger, and I'm like, oh, I was suppressing so much anxiety there. I was just pretending to enjoy myself, and I hated all the
Yeah.
noise and so on.
Yes.
I think what is important, and I love the fact that you're bringing up clinicians. I'm obviously a clinician who's neurodivergent myself.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to find, even if it's not a neurodivergent clinician, ideally that would be
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if it is somebody that is neurotypical, to let them, like more neurotypical, I don't believe there's like a clear division, but I
Yes.
would say to them to look at what are the more subtle signs, the internalized symptoms or signs, if you will, and then to find somebody that truly knows you and you trust, and let them spot when they think that you're masking. Because I
Yeah.
would say this to a client of mine. I'm like, oh, I love the humor, but I know that you're hiding
Yeah.
some sadness, like you're
Yeah.
obviously covering
Yeah.
up a little bit
Yeah.
here. And he trusts me.
Mm,
So, he was able to see that as me
yeah.
trying to help, not
Mm,
hurt. But yeah, finding somebody that could help open up a little bit more and show
yeah.
you when you're feeling like you're masking.
Yeah.
What about recovery from overwhelm or burnout, Yen? It's often non-linear for neurodivergent individuals. Has that been part of
Yeah.
your experience at all, and how has it shaped your
Mm.
mental health and self-perception over time?
Oh, definitely. So for me, I guess burnout for me might be a bit different. And maybe I hadn't thought of this until now, actually, but every few years, I get really anxious, like high levels of anxiety, and they turn into psychosis. And I'm just wondering this now. So thank you for raising this question. I'm wondering if the psychosis is actually my kind of yen burnout. Anyway,
Oh
I
wow,
get
that's
unwell, as I say,
interesting. Yeah.
every sort of between 6 and 8 years, and when it happens, it is definitely not a neat continuous gradient from being really unwell to being okay. Um, it is not the case for me that I get unwell and then sort of steadily get better. When I've been unwell in the past, so it's about 6 major episodes in 30 years, I get very psychotic and I usually spend a lot of time in hospital. And then things take a pretty similar trajectory, but it isn't exactly a clear line from unwell to healthy. It changes and evolves, sometimes get better than worse and better again. I'm more sensitive to mental health issues for some time, so it's like my level of resilience and tolerance is lowered while I'm recovering. I'm also impacted by external factors like poor treatment from doctors or managers at work. So it's not as simple as just getting unwell and then getting better in some tidy, predictable trajectory. Um, I remember for many years, it was very comforting to me, and it's wrong. This is a wrong assumption, but it was very comforting to me for many years to think that I couldn't just get unwell for no reason at all. If I was going to get unwell, there had to be a trigger, a cause. And I've learned that that's actually not quite true. So that's a bit sad because it makes life a bit more frightening. That's the other thing about life as a neurodivergent person with a mental illness. Life is frightening. The world is
Mhm.
frightening. You know, I think about the future and I think, what's it going to be like for me? You know, a 70 or 80 something schizophrenic autistic person who lives alone with a cat. Like, what's that world going to be like? I don't like the idea of that. I'm not a
Mm.
very negative person. I'm a very positive person, but I do worry about the future. I don't have the only support I've got is from NDIS, from disability support. And they're, cutting back on that. So I'm okay now, but yeah, I worry about the future. I worry
Mm.
about the medication. I'm on this wonderful medication called clozapine, which has changed my life. But what if I can't take it? And it's all the worrying and catastrophizing all over again, but on a really high level. It's like about existential anxiety, which is,
Mm.
that's probably a whole other conversation. But yes, knowing that my illness can happen pretty much at any time for any reason does not fill me with joy.
Mm.
I do have a
I
very nice cat though, and lots of good fans online. So, it's
yeah.
not all.
Yeah, I think what you're raising is a point that a lot of us are worried about. Also because we tend to often not choose the
Yes.
typical life of having, a partner and 2.5 kids and white
Yeah.
picket fence and a Labrador. So we are sitting with, okay, our friends are online. Many of our friends are online, our communities. I think it's
Yeah.
also knowing that, I mean, just if I'm speaking to you as a person,
Mm.
you are such a lovely individual, and I will always be available to speak to you whenever you need somebody to speak to. And I'm going to get emotional now if I continue with this. I'm going to pause it there and pull it back before I cry.
Oh,
But
it's so good.
yeah, but I think it's just because of the way that you change people's lives just by, I mean, I've only met you online and, I'm
Yeah.
always wondering like what's Yen doing and it's just, yeah, the impact that you have. And I think we often forget as neurodivergent individuals the impact that we have on other people's lives. So maybe finding a couple of people to ask, what do I mean in your life could also
Yeah.
help.
Okay.
Because I think we don't hear that
Yes.
often, and we don't ask for that because we're so
Yeah.
focused on how can we make other
Mm.
people's lives better a lot of times, that we don't think about our own. Um, I wanted to touch on a question that is actually quite pertinent for now.
Yes.
Was
Yes.
Amanda was asking, how can we determine when it may be safe to not mask in the workplace?
Oh, look, I think that's up to the individual as well. Um, Disclosure and masking at work are all challenging things. I think it depends on your sense of safety in your workplace as well. I worked in government for 17 years, and most of those roles that I had, I felt totally safe to disclose my autism and not to have to mask. But then in other roles in similar areas, um, that they didn't get me. So I worked in a compliance area and most of the staff were contractors and it was really not a very nice place to work. And I can always tell if I'm in a positive workplace and it's safe to be myself. If I talk to them about my books or other accomplishments and they're impressed, then that's a safe workplace. So it's about finding a metric or a measure to use to actually identify to you whether you think that workplace is a safe place. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be something different for each person. For me, it really was. It's like if I say to them, "Oh, I've written all these books," and they go, "Oh, I don't like that. I'm intimidated by that." Well, they won't say
Mm.
that, but that'll be the thing you get. And alternatively, they say, "Oh, that's fantastic. Good for you. Nice job." Then
Mm.
that workplace is gonna be a lot more supportive, and I will not need to mask or not disclose or anything like that. For me, it's really weird, the disclosure thing, because I always talk to people about disclosing in the workplace and just say, make a strategy, decide whether you wanna tell them what you wanna say, at what point in the process you wanna say it, who you wanna say it to. For me, it's default disclosure because when you apply for a job in this day and age, They look at your resume, they look at your application, and they go online and they look at your Google profile and your Facebook profile and your LinkedIn profile. And so if you do that with me, you find out quite a lot of information that an employer might not be happy with. So it's good because if I get a job, it means they really want me. But it really is a matter of ascertaining how to find out if that workplace is somewhere where you feel safe. And if
Mm,
you do, then be your wonderful, authentic, beautiful self. If you don't, you can still be your wonderful, beautiful, authentic self, but you might need to just be a bit wary about it. Or like
mm,
me, you could leave your job, but that's a last resort, especially you talk to most people with disabilities, autistic people, um, they really don't want to leave their job because they are terrified that they won't get another one. And there's a
yeah,
reason for that. It is so hard to find work for many of us. So it is
yeah,
perfectly legitimate not to want to leave your job, even if it's miserable. But yeah, doing what you
yeah.
can to
Oh,
alleviate the miserable is a good thing. That was a bit of a long-winded answer. I apologize. Oh, now the
no,
cat's
no,
asleep
no.
next to me.
No, Amanda's saying thank you. I lost you there for a second, but I think it was my internet actually. I
Yeah,
wanted to mention just, sorry, from my side. Hold on one second. I just need to cough.
that's good.
Sorry, there was something in my throat. But from my side, it was when I was still working in a team. It was
Mm,
finding somebody safe in my
yeah,
team that I feel like I could unmask a little bit,
yeah,
and then I would test it. So it was kind of like I would open like a side gate, if you will, and to test how do they handle me saying, "Oh, I can't go to the the team get
mm,
together because it's too loud, because my sensory system is overwhelmed." So I didn't disclose, but I would start using some of the
that, yeah,
characteristics and the feelings, and then I would
yes,
test and see. And then
that's
finding
good.
one person makes it feel so much better because then you're like,
Yeah,
okay, at least they get me. So now I can maybe see if I can disclose to a manager or to,
yeah,
whoever. Um,
yeah,
yeah, in an ideal world, we want to be able to disclose quickly. But yeah, and I've got
yeah,
so many other questions for you. So I'm going to continue here. Many neurodivergent and queer individuals experience pressure to fit in. And we were speaking about this a little bit with the
yes,
masking, but also to adapt or hide parts of themselves, kind of what
yeah,
we're speaking about now as well. But how can
mm,
that internalized pressure affect mental well being over time? As we know, it's not great,
mm,
but how do you see it in your own
yes,
life and others?
yeah, definitely. So combination of being neurodivergent and queer and experiences of stigma, ableism, and transphobic and or homophobic bigotry can influence people to try to be someone they're not, or even to reject their own identity or to mask and be closeted in order to feel accepted. This has a big impact on mental health and well-being, absolutely. Every single human being, unless they're awful, like not Donald Trump or anyone, but everyone else has the right to be their own beautiful self, free from bigotry, stigma, and hate. That's an absolute given. In my world, everyone is welcome. I do not do bigotry. I might do some unconscious bias that I don't know about, and if I do, I apologize. But generally, intersectionality is a very common experience for many of us, particularly neurodivergent folks. And that intersection of queer identity and autistic identity is pretty close. Being closeted, like masking, is stressful. You've got to keep up the lie. I have a wonderful ex-manager from the public service who's gay, and he's fantastic. He's actually retired now. But he said to me once, he was my first manager when I was a graduate, and he said to me he had to fire someone. There was a staff member that was, I don't know, diddling their timesheet or something, and he had to fire them. And this staff member said, "Well, I'll tell everyone you're gay." And my manager said, "Oh, go do your worst." And that's what he said. But inside he's thinking, "Oh my God, I hope he doesn't." And that,
Oh, that's
that kind of
horrible.
thing,
Yeah.
being afraid of people using your identity as a reason for blackmail and litigation and things like that. We already have enough things to worry about without this kind of bizzo. We really do.
Exactly.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it's a huge issue, and it's a societal issue, all of these things are societal. When I talk about intersectionality and privilege, I'm not talking about individuals obviously people with all the kinds of privilege can have crappy lives, and people from a bunch of marginalised groups like me can have very good lives. It's not about individuals, it's about society and understanding the structural barriers to accessing the world that people from marginalised groups face.
Yeah, I think it's just so sad that we need to advocate so much for ourselves. Like when
Yeah,
we're feeling already like there's so much stigma and shame, and we need to still stand up and say something about
yeah,
it. I think
yeah,
that's where your previous suggestion of just stopping for a moment and taking care of you is so important, because
yeah,
we can't advocate when we're feeling like we're in survival mode. And with all of this, internalized shame is actually one of my next questions. Like,
yeah,
is also something that many neurodivergent people carry after years of masking and feeling misunderstood. How do we
yeah,
create the psychological safety needed to unpack the shame, unlearn the masking, and
yeah.
transition towards self compassion and really liking who we are, I guess?
Yeah, it is so important. This is such an important thing. I went to school. Lots of people go to school. Everyone hated me. Well, not everyone, but most people. All the bullies hated me anyway, and most people just followed suit. And so that meant that I had no concept of pride. I had no concept that I was a good person, that there's anything positive about me at all. I got bullied for being a nerd. I got bullied for being a lesbian, for having apparently ambiguous gender, all of those things. And it really made life difficult. And this is a really, really complex issue. This is not something I can fix. I wish I could, but I can't. It is a societal issue a lot of the time. So living in a world where we're understood, accepted, and respected will help to address this. So anything that happens in that space is a positive. A world which is not full of stereotypes and assumptions, where queer and neurodivergent people can feel confident to be themselves, would be a very, very good thing indeed.
That would be such a beautiful world. I want to
Yeah.
create
I,
that with you.
yeah. I have more on this one. So, one area this can be addressed is representation, such as in places like popular culture and politics. So, having actors and musicians, and then having politicians, people in civic life, that kind of thing. Positive representation means that people can see others like them in a positive and ordinary way, and it's very different to tokenism. And my cat's attacking me. A healthy whack of pride and loving and valuing yourself is an important thing in this space. To my mind, pride is a really effective cure for shame. Excuse me, can we stop attacking me, my furry smoochy cat friend? Apparently, I'm a cat toy. If you like, yeah,
Sunflower wants a
Sunflower,
toy.
she wants to come and talk on the computer. If you like and value yourself, it's really difficult to be filled with shame at the same time. Surrounding yourself with those people who like and support and value you is essential. If your biological family, your family of birth is not inclusive or respectful, and sadly this is often the case for particularly for queer people, a family of choice is a really good idea. And finally, know that you have no reason to be ashamed, none whatsoever. You are beautiful just as you are. You do not have to make excuses or pretend to be someone else. Just be amazing. I always think of that movie, Priscilla, the Queen of the Desert, and I think of the scene where they're driving along and the fella's on top of the thing wearing his opera clothes, and I just think, yeah, that's what I want for me. That's the level of pride I want to display to the world.
That's awesome. I think, yeah, the main focus for me was the change that made it all possible for me to actually really like myself was, why am I trying to be this other person? Like, I'm always going to say the wrong thing. I'm always going to be anxious when I do even these calls that I love. And
Yeah,
I kept on trying to hide everything. And when
yeah,
I started opening up and I started saying, I'm really anxious, or oh,
yeah,
I said this, I shouldn't have probably, but
yeah,
that's just me. I started really liking who I was. And yes, of
mm,
course, some people you can again use your intuition there and see,
yeah,
okay, this person
yeah,
is never gonna like that
yeah,
um truer version of you. So
mhm,
they're just not part of your circle then. And then you find the real friends. Like you have to kind of audit who you
yeah,
have in your life. When you get that acceptance back, that's also such a nice kind
Yeah,
of engine
yeah,
to get the self-esteem back.
yeah, yeah.
But you were talking about intersectional. Sorry, were you wanting to say something there?
I always say, and this is funny because Google AI quoted me, and I thought, oh God, I better be careful what I say or it'll turn up on Google AI. I said, I'm 51 and I don't give a crap. And what I meant by that was that if someone doesn't like me, if someone wants to be rude to me, nah, don't care.
Yeah.
I'm so confident in who I am that other people can hate me with a passion as long as they don't have to do anything mean to me. But if they just dislike me immensely, nah, go with that.
Mm,
And that was such a revelation because I spent my whole life, most of my life, trying to be socially accepted. And now I just think, well, I want to be accepted by nice people. I don't want to be
exactly.
socially accepted by horrible people. If I'm going to be accepted, that's great. But I don't. I'm not going to sacrifice my sense of who I am in order to be accepted by people just for the sake of being accepted. That's a
Yeah.
wonderful revelation.
Exactly. And also just being yourself. Like
Mm.
that's the beauty of it all. So if you're being
Yes,
accepted by somebody that's not nice and you're not being yourself, that's like a
yeah,
double allostatic load that
yeah,
we're
yeah,
increasing our cognitive
mm,
load, allostatic load,
mm,
and decreasing our self-compassion.
yeah,
You're also getting comments from Amanda saying that's beautiful, Ian. So that's awesome. It's nice to hear.
mm.
Um you're talking about being in the neurodivergent and queer, but what if we haven't disclosed either identity? What might make mental health spaces feel safe enough or unsafe enough for them to open up?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things where you don't have to actually do that much, but what you can do will be really meaningful. So, clear messaging in support of neurodivergent and queer people. Things like pamphlets in common spaces for like -18, organisers like that. Within service locations, actively supporting days of significance, like Wear It Purple Day, can also help. Doctors and other clinicians having a good understanding of neurodivergence and queer identities and being openly supportive and respectful and encouraging respect and inclusive at the services they work for. Zero tolerance for bigotry in hospitals, local mental health clinics, that kind of thing. Simple things. Hey, stop attacking me. Ow, kitty. She never attacks me, and now she's digging her claws in. Darling, you're being a menace. Yes, where was I? Well, before I got savaged by my wild beast. Excuse
For
me, not
organizations.
bad. So, yeah, simple things like using someone's correct name and pronouns and not making assumptions about gender is good. I remember, what was my story? Nice story before my cat attacked me. Um,
I think it was
no, it's
like
gone.
I remember actually a story that you told me is like with the gender, and you said
Mm,
that if
mm,
you just add one thing and it takes five
yeah.
seconds, which I did obviously with the putting your title in an email
Yeah,
and just
put your
saying,
pronouns in your email signature block. Easy.
because then it helps for you to see, oh, okay, this person,
Yes.
I'm using she her, but I'm an ally. So
Yeah.
you said even that makes you feel a little bit safer.
Absolutely. If I see in someone's signature block that they put their pronouns, I know that that person is a friend to transgender people because bigots do not put their pronouns in their signature block. And it literally does take about 2 minutes to do.
Exactly.
And it makes a huge difference. A lot of the stuff in this space, you don't have to do much at all. It's about attitude. It's about openly supporting people and encouraging people. That was my story I was going to share. I was in a mental health residential service in Canberra a few years ago, and there was this that I was there twice within a few short space of time, and both times there were quite bigoted people. So they had 5 residents at a time. And the first time I was there after I came out, there was this young man who was really transphobic and made my life difficult and told me off for using the wrong toilet, even though there weren't gendered toilets in the property anyway. But apparently I used the wrong one. And then the next time I was there was this woman who was just overtly transphobic in a big way. And in both instances, the staff were clearly on my side. They were so lovely, and they apologized, and they said to these people, "You can't behave like that. It's bigoted. It's hateful. You're hurting Yen. You know, it's not a nice thing to do." And that was really nice for me. I mean, not the bigotry, but the response to the bigotry was lovely and really, yeah, that was really affirming. And services, if they do that and somebody does come out with some bigotry, just be really clearly on the side of things that are good and holy and be nice to Yen, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you though. It's just such a shame that,
Mm,
I mean, you have to have a kind of a rule book for a consequence that's
yeah, yeah,
it's just being human. Like, can we not just be nice people? It's so
I know.
easy, right? To
Mm.
be nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I struggle with it. I just don't understand why people need to behave that way, but anyway, I don't. And then that whole thing about where they think we're recruiting and we're, like, coercing young people into being trans, no, I didn't get that email.
Where's the marketing campaign? You know, one of my trans clients told me once, because she's amazing with public speaking.
Mhm.
I'm assuming because she's so well eloquent with
Yeah,
her words and everything, and I'm like,
yeah,
you should definitely do public speaking. And she was telling me, Karla,
yeah,
we just want to be left alone. Like we don't want to be out in the
yeah,
streets and getting abused. Just leave me alone. I'm like, okay, okay. I'm sorry, but you're just so like so articulate and the way she
yeah,
speaks. But yeah, no, it's true. Eh? It's not, there's not this
mhm,
marketing campaign happening
mhm.
behind closed doors.
It really isn't. Oh, yeah, and if anything, you know, like, you know, if you say your pronouns and some bigot will say, "Oh, it's a woke agenda." But what about the fact that, you know, people say when a baby's born, "Oh, is it a boy or girl?" And then they say when they're a little kid, "Oh, have they got a boyfriend? Have they got a girlfriend?" Like, this is heteronormative and cisnormative descriptions of children, and we don't go around saying, "Oh, they're indoctrinating the children." But if
Yeah.
we did similar things.
Mm, that's exactly it. I don't know if you follow my favorite Joe. I've spoken to her before on
Yeah,
Caboose on a Divergent discussion, and
yeah,
she does these videos on what neurotypicals say neurodivergent individuals do. Like he
yes,
was
yeah,
mentioning, like the no empathy, and then
yeah,
she does videos of like what's actually happening, exactly what we pointed out,
yeah,
and also this,
yeah,
like all these, it's yeah, like false narratives that
yeah,
we're told, and it's just the opposite. It's her videos are hilarious. I
yeah,
want
I'll
to
have to
move
uh,
over to sorry. Were you say something?
all good.
I want to move over to therapy because obviously this is one of
Yeah,
my
yeah,
favorite topics, being a
yeah,
therapist. But
yeah,
how can
yeah.
therapy be adapted to better support neurodivergent communication styles specifically and emotional processing?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess being responsive to the needs of specific clients, undertaking training on neurodivergence and queer identities, learning from their experience, reading my books, and not just my books. There are loads of books in the world that aren't mine, but which are really good as well. So have a look at those. More therapists with personal lived experience of being queer and neurodivergent is a big positive too. I have a wonderful, wonderful support worker. She's my art therapist, and her name's Shara. And I access her through my NDS plan. And she's absolutely amazing. And she's neurodivergent. And we just have these wonderful sessions together. And it's brilliant. And I remember when I was at that residential service again, I got an outreach worker whose name was Bridie. And she was absolutely wonderful, and she was queer, and it was just that link between myself and a therapist or a worker that's themselves queer and or neurodivergent just made the relationship so much more helpful and meaningful, and I actually learnt stuff. And then I've got it on the other way too, because I have my own NDIS clients, and I had one that just signed up with me recently through an agency, and I got there and I was wearing my lanyard and it had a little, trans pride little key ring, and this person said, "Oh my god, you're trans." And so I then became the best worker this person had ever met, ever, and, it was a lovely thing. And so, you know, I
That's
mean, I
awesome.
think that the gold standard is to have therapists that have a
Mm.
personal experience. And if that's not possible, maybe who are parents, but not dodgy parents, those ableist, oh my God, I have an autistic child, it's the end of the world. Not them. You don't want them as your
Mm,
therapist. You want
yeah.
the inclusive ones. But I think it is an area with the double empathy problem. So you're better off with
Mm.
another neurodivergent person.
Yeah, and if you don't have like the different types or the specific type of neurodivergence that you might have, it's also good
Yeah,
to ask your or share with your therapist. Like I have a queer client, and they share with me a lot of resources because
yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
differences that I maybe
yeah,
don't understand,
yeah,
like the culture that they're from. And
yeah,
they'll share with me books that I should read. And I love that because I'm also becoming a better human
yeah,
and I'm understanding their point of reference better. So it really is,
yeah,
it's great to learn and just staying curious and staying humble in the sense that
yeah, yeah,
we're only experts of ourselves. We're not experts
yeah.
of anyone else, really. I just want to go over to one last question and then I want to go and see if there's any more audience questions. But what developments in mental health support for neurodivergent and queer people make you feel most hopeful right now? Is there anything?
Look, there actually is, and this one isn't too recent. It's probably from 10 years ago, but in Canberra, so the state that Canberra's in is the Australian Capital Territory, or the ACT, and they made some changes to the Mental Health Act in the ACT, which makes services more responsive and comes through a much more inclusive, trauma-informed, lived experience informed, consumer-led perspective, and it really has made a difference. Things like the crisis team. So you used to ring up the crisis team, they didn't have enough people working there, so you'd be on hold for half an hour or more, and then they'd be not very helpful because they were overworked and understaffed, so they're all cranky pants, and you're trying to get support, and you're not getting support. This is awful, and, yeah, I don't know this for sure, but I imagine it probably contributed to some suicide attempts. So, a service that was meant to be helpful was far from it, and so they brought the new act in, and people had obviously given feedback on the development of the act, and so now they have twice as many clinicians on call. I think they have a quota that they have to answer within a certain period of time. They have a number of other strategies that aren't just the crisis team. So they have the ones that come and visit you. They have one that's a police officer, an ambulance officer, and a clinician that's called the PACER team. And they come, if it looks like you have to go to hospital, they come and talk to you. And so if you do, then they can take you there and then. And it really has made a huge difference, which is good. It's nice when government policy actually works or
Yeah.
helps. And also, there's a lot of growth around advocacy and positive representation, which to my mind is always a good thing. And I like that a lot of the clinicians these days, like yourself, are neurodivergent and queer too. It makes it a lot easier to be understood and not invalidated. And that's the experience I've found throughout my career, I guess, in the mental health system. It's very
That's awesome.
invalidating. They don't
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
the thing. I think, yeah, what you mentioned also is like finding earlier, and Amanda was also messaging
Yeah.
in the chat here that finding people that are similar to your neurotype and
Mm.
also seeing what's out there, but assessing it. So I have a client that we made a list of all the free services and we actually tested to see where she feels heard, understood, validated, and not judged, so that there's like a plan in place. So she's got me as a therapist. She's got
Yeah.
her SOS little box that when
Yeah.
she's feeling, quite low mood, she
Mm.
goes into this box where it's like all of the sensory safe things that she go into, like, so it would be like a sensory toy. It's like it's a really cute box actually. So she's got a thing that she can taste, a thing that she can smell, a thing that she can see that she likes, a thing that she can feel, and a thing that she can hear. So there's
Yeah.
all five senses there are
Mm.
covered, and then she's got a list of who she can call, and I'm on that list. But I think that
Good.
might be good, is to be proactive about these things too.
Yeah.
Like what can you do when you're feeling low? Yeah.
I
I
always
want, yeah,
suggest a
sorry.
happy box. I would
Happy.
suggest a happy box, and you put things in there that make you happy. So if you're having a really crap time, you can pull out your happy box and, you can put, like, artworks that you like or
Nice.
chocolate or, letters. Not that anyone writes letters anymore, but if you're my age or older and people write letters, keep them in there too, and things like that. And so you
Yeah.
just photos, people you like, pets you like.
Yeah.
Artworks. Oh, look at this one. I did this one the other day. Isn't it lovely?
Beautiful. I love your art. I love the way when I speak to you, I always feel calmer afterwards. You have this ability to just like calm my nervous system.
This is true. I've been told I'm a calming influence. I remember
Definitely.
once I went and visited a friend for the first time, and they had these 2 kids, and one of them they were both autistic, but one of them was nonverbal and didn't like new people really, apparently. And I sat down, and, like, 5 minutes later, this kid sits down next to me and starts playing with my bracelet, and he just sat there for, like, 3 hours while I'm talking to the parents. And,
So cute. They
the
know.
mum said, "I've never seen him do that with anyone." And
That's
it is,
awesome.
it doesn't mean I'm calm, but I'm very confident. Like, I really
Mm,
am. I also
that's
have
lovely.
massive imposter syndrome and rejection sensitivity, which is a weird dichotomy. It's like, how do these things work together? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another PhD, I'm not sure.
I think it's they know that you're a good person and that you're open and honest about who you are. Yen, as always, this has been lovely. I really want to thank also the audience for amazing questions. And this is just to a reminder for everyone that we have a range of divergent discussions coming up. You can find all of
Mhm.
the details in the Caboose app, so please download that, as well as our newly launched Neuro Nuggets. Neuro Nuggets are short, practical guides that help you understand how your brain works and find ways to make work and life easier. Yen is also in quite a few of those Neuro Nuggets, so please
Well,
do
that
go and
sounds
check
about
them.
right, doesn't it?
It's amazing Neuro
I
Nuggets.
was just thinking, I think I did some of those, didn't I?
Yes, yes, you did, yeah. And they're also for workplace to help create more inclusive spaces. So if you are at a workplace, then maybe suggest that to your employer. Created by neurodivergent people for neurodivergent people, everyone with lived experience. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that we went a bit over, but it was lovely to see everyone.
Thanks.